Hello and welcome back to Modern Horizons 3 Ranked Draft number 16 here with Mike. We're out of this slump as of this draft. So, yeah, just a little bit of spoilers as far as expectations. We will not have a losing record, we will not have an even record. This is where we kick off our turnaround after having just miserable 7 drafts in a row. This is the end of that. So I'm actually really excited for this one. This one is a really interesting and kind of cool draft that I get to use a card that I don't think I've ever used before. Pack one, pick one here. We take a Writhing Chrysalis. Other options were Devourer of Destinies and Scurry of Gremlins were kind of the big standout cards. Devourer, not something you necessarily need to first pick. The card is fine, but sometimes you don't have targets for it. Scurry of Gremlins, very powerful, great top end for the Burrows deck, easy splash for some of the Rakdos decks, or maybe not Jeskai, Azorius decks with the extra energy. Scurry of Gremlins can just end games out of nowhere, but we're taking Writhing Chrysalis. I think everybody at this point is aware it's the best card in the set. The best common in the set, I should say, and only behind a handful of very, very powerful cards like Guide of Souls. So pick two. You see me kind of flipping back and forth between the Glimpse and the Ral and the Implicit Maze. Glimpse obviously gives you the bodies that the Chrysalis likes, also, can find you the cards when you have a lot of mana. Very good card later in the game, very good card in the mid game if you're ramping to something gigantic, like maybe a Breaker of Creation or similar. But Ral and the Implicit Maze, there's a Titan's Vanguard, pick 3. Beautiful. Going Chrysalis into another red card into a Titan's Vanguard. This is an exceptional start that makes us very happy to be in the seat that we're in. But the Ral and the Implicit Maze, good against the opposing Burrows decks, good against any deck relying on spawn tokens to try to, build up mana or blockers. Glaring Flesh Raker, pick 4 here. Over kinda nothing. Like, there's nothing in this pack that we would really be considering. So, here we're probably going to wind up with one of these landscapes. There's the Fangs of Colonia, which is a card, but generally speaking, I'm going to want the landscape. I believe we see the Teamer landscape. Bountiful Landscape is the Teamer landscape, which in the Eldrazi decks tends to be the one that you want to grab, as you're very likely to be some 2-color combination of either green-blue or green-red, and very often all 3, or at least splashing the 3rd. Very, very frequently in the Eldrazi deck, it is a combination of Teamer, so getting access to the Teamer landscape specifically. Very good. So, this pack, there's a half on-color landscape. It's green and red. There's a Breathe Your Last that I briefly looked at, like, hey, black card's open. I'm not above going into Jund, but at the same time, like, if we can keep it like Teamer, that we'd rather do that. I actually took the Fangs of Colonia here. Not really sure why. Fangs is fine. I guess if we're going super wide with the Flesh Raker, Writhing Chrysalis, etc., and we have the Titan's Vanguard that can also be putting counters on things, the Fangs gets a little bit of more of a perk if we can overload the Fangs of Colonia and just make all of our spawn tokens all of a sudden like 3/4s or similar because of a Titan's Vanguard, then that gives us kind of an alternate way to win without having to have any of like the giant Eldrazi, like the Breaker of Creations, etc. Void Spawn is or Void Pouncer, excuse me, is fine. We wheel the Glimpse the Unthinkable, so we're pretty happy about that. Wheel nothing, so rare draft. Wheel the the Oozewag, which we're fine to take. Not like it's going to make our deck most likely. Giving trample to our big dumb creatures pretty good. So Stomp versus Horrific Assault. Horrific Assault, the life gain tends to be very relevant, and 1 mana versus 2 mana, again, just pretty major upgrades. That said, obviously Stomp can be a land, so they're very on par with each other. You can even see the ratings are identical ratings there. But yeah, I think we took Horrific Assault. We just want the cheapest possible interaction, right? Like if you had the choice of killing a thing for 1 mana or killing it for 2 mana, you probably want the one that does it for 1. Fang Flames as our next pickup here. So we now have a couple decent removal spells. So pretty happy about that. Unfortunately, we're going to have to ship this Emperor of Bones. This pack is pretty medium. There's the Evolution Witness. There's the Priest of Titania. Normally, I wouldn't be a big fan of the Priest, but the Eldrazi deck tends to get into a spot where you're going to have multiple like 4-drops, and just having the mana dorks when you can get them is something that I'm interested in. So obviously we'd rather have the Dryad, but we'll take Priest in a pinch. Notably, there are other elves in the set, even if it's not a Kindred-themed set in terms of elves. There are other elves that you might potentially get in play where the Priest suddenly is activating for more mana than just tapping for 1. Evolution Witness is a priest. I believe the Disciple of Freyalise is an elf, and the Disciple of Freyalise, I believe, is also an elf. So there are a non-zero number of elves. Grabbing the Infernal Captor there, we can sacrifice a spawn token to get an active treason effect. It's fine. We're not like looking to play the card, but it's fine. Here's a Pyretic Rebirth, which I'm a pretty big fan of. It's relatively easy to splash. Right now we have 3 Bountiful Landscapes, but I'm sure we could pick up a black-red, black-green, or, the full-on Jund one at some point. So here's an Idol of the False Gods, which I'm taking here. The card is not something that stands out to me. It's not a card that I particularly like playing, and it's not something that I've ever been scared of really across from me when my opponents play it. But we are at a lack of 2-drops at the moment, and just having something to be able to fill the curve that still functions with the rest of what the deck is trying to accomplish makes sense to me. So yeah, normally Idol not a card that I'm looking to pick up, but here we go. Just waiting on the next pack, going through. I believe the Ironworks we cut. We're not an energy-based deck, so the Ironworks is only ever going to get energy when we're attacking, so making a 3/3 every 3 turns is not something that I'm really interested in. So, yeah, the Ironworks can get out. The Infernal Captor can probably stick around at least for now. Pyretic Rebirth can stick around at least for now. We already have a Fangs of Colonia, so we're probably not playing 2 of these. But there it is. Black card to the sideboard, blue card to the sideboard, Wiredwood Symbiote to the sideboard. Alright, so, pack 3. We opened a second Devourer of Destinies, which is kind of funny. There's a Horrific Assault, and there's a Fanged Flames. So we could use the top end, if I'm being completely honest. Right now we top out on Titan's Vanguard, which, don't get me wrong, is fine. But we could use the big dumb top end. Like, Devourer of Destinies is basically just a gigantic Flame Tongue Kavu in this deck, and we're very okay with that. It gives us another piece of removal to go along with our Horrific Assault Fang Flames, which, by the way, were both of the cards that we would have taken if we weren't taking the Devourer here. Probably the second Horrific Assault, to be honest. Here's a Path of Annihilation, which we're snapping up. It's not even actually close. The fact that a Guide of Souls is making its way around the table because it's pack 3, and I assume the person to my right is not in white, and obviously I'm not in white, so we have It That Heralds the End, Wastscape Battle Mage, and the Basking Broodscale all as options here. Broodscale, I think, is just the best option here. There's also a second idol, but we're looking for 2-drops, and Basking Broodscale is one of the best 2-drops. Here's another Writhing Chrysalis pick 4. So 100% we're in the right seat for this draft. Kozilek's Command pick 5. This draft is fantastic. I'm super excited to play this deck. We could use like another Mana Dork, I guess, would be like the absolute highlight of what I'm looking for. But outside of that, I'm real excited to get this deck going. Moving the Pyretic Rebirth to the sideboard, we haven't actually picked up a black landscape. We don't have a Dryad to make black mana. So it's very unlikely. We say that and then immediately find the Jund landscape. So we might wind up moving the Rebirth back into the deck at that point. We're not taking the Frogmere Enforcer, right? Just take the landscape. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, now we have 2 black landscapes, so the Pyretic Rebirth is back on the table. Drownyard Lurkers, whatever. Big dumb creature. That's fine. We're not going to play a blue source, so we're not cycling it unless we have the Path of Annihilation. But now we have another large creature on the top end, which is a positive thing for us. This was the pack that had all of the good 2-drops, and we wheel the Idol of the False Gods. So somebody snapped up the Wastegate Battle Mage, and somebody snapped up the It That Heralds the End. So that's okay. The second idol here, like I said, based on what we're doing, we like having the extra 2-drops. We are, 5, sort of 6 lands? Yeah, so cut the Infernal Captor as one of the weakest cards. Cut one of the Fangs. Yeah. We're pretty much done. So we've more or less built the deck in the draft portion. If we click on the Jund build, then it wants us to play more black cards for some reason. So what it wants us to do is play the Infernal Captor and the second Fangs. I am personally about that life where we play 1 Swamp and the Pyretic Rebirth over the second Fangs, probably. I don't mind having the Infernal Captor because we should have Spawn to sacrifice, although we do have a lot of 4s already. I'm just not a big fan of this second Fangs either. We could also just play an extra land if we really want to, but yeah, there we go. I moved the Captor back in. Our creature count is a little low, but we do have the idols that pump out creatures. The Ral and the Implicit Maze ultimately turns into a creature. So I think we're okay here. Also, the Kozilek's Command makes a pile of creatures, and Path of Ancestry makes creatures. Yeah, I think we're okay. We're back to cutting the Infernal Captor, and I think I did just add the extra land in this case. I would rather have more lands than less, just to make sure that we get to 4 mana, since the only 2-drop mana dork that we actually wound up with was the Priest of Titania, which is the weakest one, but it is still a mana dork, and anytime we can go, turn 1, turn 2 mana dork, turn 3 4-drop, just get ahead and get to that 4-drop quickly. We're going to want to do that, so. Moving around some more cards, we've moved the Gift of the Viper out, put the Infernal Captor back in. Again, it puts us at like a steep number of 4-drops, which is not perfect, but I did want the extra creature anyway, since our creature count was a little bit low. And yeah, like, we're going to keep this hand. So if you're watching, oh, there's a turn 1 Guide of Souls, so, the best possible start in this format. Turn 1 on the play, Guide of Souls. I feel dead already, but we'll see what we can do. So do we... Opponent just good gaming me on turn 2 here. Just some high quality, good integrity, just absolutely polite and respectful people that you play against all the time. So we're going to go ahead and find our black source here while we have an opportunity where we're not using the mana. Obviously, we still have our lands rolled up. We're playing the Glimpse here. We're going to lose all of these cards and just get three tokens here. But when we know we're trying to go Writhing Chrysalis into Titan's Vanguard, this is going to give us the opportunity to be able to block basically everything, right? We're only taking 2 damage here. We get to get the Writhing Chrysalis down. If we want to, we can get the Idol down also. But I think we just kind of hang out. We get the Chrysalis down. Making sure that the Writhing Chrysalis can get very large to make sure that it can deal with the Guide of Souls is important. So, and we're choosing not to play out the Idol just yet. Opponent is going to need to do something to try to attack through the Writhing Chrysalis right now. And yeah, they don't have a good way of attacking at the moment, so. Alright, so this turn we can play Idol, and then, and then Vanguard, which will trigger, put counters everywhere, triggers, put +1, yeah. So there you go. Lots of stuff just happened. We have an Idol that's getting ready to go big. We have our Writhing Chrysalis that can block everything, basically. Opponent, weirdly, with Kappa Cannoneer. Not a card that I've seen out of, like, blue-white almost ever, and it certainly explains the presence of the Junk Diver. So now we're getting extra triggers, extra counters. Because of the Guide of Souls, we're going to get to jump and grow this Kappa Cannoneer, and suddenly, if they can play an artifact next turn, I have succumbed it to a 2-turn clock. Which is wild, but it is what it is. That thing says unblockable, right? It's not like we took a bunch of damage even off the turn 1 Guide of Souls start. We managed to keep ourselves at 16. But so here we're deciding if we want to activate the Idol, sacrifice 2 things in favor of making a new one. Unfortunately, the Kappa Cannoneer managed to get up to being an 8/8. We have the Pyretic Rebirth and the mana to pay extra, but we can only deal 7 damage. So the Cannoneer getting up to an 8/8 and making it so that we can't really uh, shoot it down is unfortunate. So, yep, attack with the Vanguard, counters everywhere. They can upgrade their 0-1 into a 3-3. They take damage because of trample. The 3-3 doesn't particularly matter here. Realistically, the only thing we care about is the Kappa Cannoneer having an artifact come into play. And that's an artifact, so we are just dead. So that's really unfortunate, to be honest. We basically beat the Guide of Souls and lost the unblockable 2-turn clock Kappa Cannoneer. That's tough. That is a tough L when this deck is very good. We're coming off of this really horrendous streak of drafts, and then we draft a deck that looks this good and lose our first game is very disheartening. I will say that I took some time after that, or after, and I guess, yeah, really after that 7 game skid, or 7 draft skid, I should say, where we did some of the Arena Cube drafts to just kind of like reset the brain, refresh a little bit, and have a little bit of fun. Remember what fun is like. And I have some of those recorded. So once I get done with these Modern Horizons 3 ranked ladder, I'll start getting those ready to go. They're a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to going back through and reliving some of them. But for right now, opponent has a Dryad, we have a Priest, so both of us trying to ramp a little bit. They're ramping into an Oozewag, we're ramping into a Path of Annihilation, and then more stuff. So, we could just play the Writhing Chrysalis here, but I guess it doesn't. It's kind of 6-1, half a dozen the other. Maybe we do play the Chrysalis here. It gives me the ability to block. Yeah, I prefer the Path. We just want to get. We just want to get our mana active. I suppose Chrysalis into Path would kind of do the same. Would it? Alright, so for Chrysalis first and then Path. The Path gives us the excess mana right away. Yeah, maybe I should have cast Writhing Chrysalis first. I don't know. Opponent just dumping their whole hand into play. So now we Chrysalis for sure. And then we can choose. We can just Titan's Vanguard if we want to. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That leaves us with the Writhing Chrysalis and 2 spawn tokens if we want to use the Titan's Vanguard. We can also just Horrific Assault and clear either the Emperor of Bones or the Oozewag if we're particularly worried about that. And yeah, we can also do this where we can get the Basking Brood scale down, which is just more bodies overall. All right, so we tapped one of the not sick ones and sacrificed one of the sick ones. We could have just sacrificed the tapped one. I'm not sure it really matters, but just weird that I made a conscious choice to do this way. Oh, okay, never mind. So at least there's an explanation as to why. So we sacrificed the not sick ones. Well, we sacrificed them specifically so that we could grow the writhing chrysalis, so that we could go for this horrific assault. The safekeeper obviously means they're just going to sacrifice a land, so we're trading a horrific assault for a land here. But that should limit the amount of top decks that our opponent has access to, and the Emperor of Bones has no targets. So, for example, them sacrificing a land, just yeah, it just cuts them off of potentially larger threats. Yep, we take 4, so that means whatever they have in hand is something they want to cast. Sure. Basking Brood Scale gets to become a 4/4. All right, land Titan's Vanguard. I assume. I suppose we could also kick a Void Pouncer and Titan's Vanguard. Yeah, we sure can. Annoying that it tapped the Brood Scale instead of the Priest, but that's okay. Amusingly, the Titan's Vanguard putting the counter on the Brood Scale makes an extra spawn token. So opponent might have the branching evolution over there to make their creatures very large when they adapt, like the doubling the counters and whatnot. But their creatures are going to get outsized very quickly. This writhing chrysalis already has 4 more things that can be sacrificed, so it is functionally a 9/10. And then the Titan's Vanguard obviously getting to attack. Very likely we'll get to attack exactly 1 time. But it's either trading with the Death Touching Dryad. I guess there's nothing else really for it to trade with, so attacking probably not best at the moment. So I guess we're just sitting here waiting. Fang Flames is a good draw. They can adapt in response. They can throw lands at our stuff, or at their stuff, to protect it if they want with the Safekeeper. But so if we can't target the Emperor or the Oozewag because they just adapt their way out of it. We can target the Brood Scale, we can target the Dryad, we can target the Safekeeper itself. I kind of like targeting the Dryad here. Yeah, it seems I'm struggling to make up my mind what I want to target. This is a bit tricky of a spot just because, like, I don't want to sit forever. Sure. Target the Emperor. They can adapt to get it out of range. But, yeah. Or they can sacrifice a land. Because there's no creatures under the Emperor at the moment, adapting doesn't cause a trigger. It doesn't do anything. So I think we were just targeting the Emperor there to force the action. They chose to adapt the Oozewag, which makes sense, and then to give Shroud to the Emperor, which does set them back another land. So again, we're just kind of sitting here in a spot where they can't really attack because our creatures are gigantic. We can't really attack because their creatures are gigantic. What did I miss? Oh, they sacrificed the spawn token. Okay. So, second Oozewag. That's fine. Kozilek's command is All right. So we can do this for a large number, which gives us a whole army, or we can go looking for something specific. I think we can just pass the turn, though. They can continue sacrificing lands, but they are running out of lands. They are down to 2. So it is very difficult to sacrifice your mana and continue to try to play the game. So we'll see. But Kozilek's Command being an instant, there's no reason to do it now. We see kind of what they do. If they tap out for something, we can always respond. We can either make an absolute pile of tokens so that our Writhing Chrysalis can do more, or we can scry basically our entire deck. All right, so I think here we target the Oozwag and force them to sacrifice another land. The Shroud would also counter the Strength, interestingly enough. Okay. Or we just let that happen. So if we had targeted the Oozwag with the Kozilek's Command, if they respond by giving it Shroud with the Safekeeper, then their own enchantment fizzles. You can't target your own creatures when you have Shroud either. So it would fizzle that part of the Kozilek's Command. They would keep the Oozwag, but they would lose the enchantment. So I think I missed an opportunity there to get a pretty big 2-for-1. But all right, so we're casting this Kozilek's Command, right? We're not casting this. Okay. All right, that Devourer is neat. So Devourer can just target the enchantment here, and keep the Safekeeper from doing anything about it. Yeah. So we're casting a big spell, so we get a path trigger and gain some. Okay. All right. I'm guessing since opponent conceded to the Devourer there, that they would have conceded to the Kozilek's Command as well, but I don't know. It doesn't really matter. They had very little resources, and we were just building up our resources while keeping the board more or less at parity. Even the 16/16 Oozwag wasn't going to be able to do much, so. Okay, we have our Priest into our 4-drop, so this hand is, kind of what we're hoping to do almost every game, right? We would have loved more 2-mana ramp, but it is what it is. Party Thrasher, very cool card. Obviously, we don't have the interaction to kill it right away. So, Party Thrasher says no trigger. So, opponent is choosing not to discard a card to look at 2. All right. Yep, no blocks. So Quicksilver Amulet there means that when they start using the Party Thrasher, we're going to start taking some damage off the Quicksilver Amulet. Cool little interaction there. But we have our turn 3 Path of Annihilation, and which suddenly gives us, kind of all the mana in the world, right? Quicksilver Amulet gave them a Plains, and Party Thrasher discard a Plains to get a Goblin, Conduit Goblin. Sure. We take 1 off the Amulet when they cast the Goblin, and probably in for 1 with the Party Thrasher. maybe 2. Nope. Probably going to use that energy on the amulet. So. Okay. So this is just a... Sure. That looks like a Skoa, I think. This is just a 1-for-1 with the Goblin. Just keeping the Goblin out of play. Idol the False Gods, sure. Okay. Yep. So I assume we're discarding to the Thrasher. Yep, there went another land in favor of a Scurry of Gremlins. They activated the amulet again, so they lost access to the Skoa in order to find a land. Interesting that they activated the amulet instead of just holding off and just waiting till they could play the Skoa. Not sure what they were digging towards specifically there. But also that meant they used their energy, so now the Scurry of Gremlins can't be activated this turn. Seems suspicious. But alright, Ral, I would like to discard this Captor, and we hit Kozilek's Command and Horrific Assault, which is pretty dang cool, if we're being honest. So let's get rid of this Party Thrasher. I think that's step 1 here. Get rid of the Party Thrasher. And how much mana do we want to tap? What do we want to do with it? Probably Scry X draw. Exile, for sure. And then try to find some action. Notably, making a bunch of duders does mean that we would get our idol active very quickly. So I suppose there is merit in both modes, both Scry X draw and making guys. So yeah, I think that's ultimately what we wind up doing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We could do X equals 9 here if we wanted to. Okay, so we are leaving up. We still have 3 mana unused, which is fine. Just we could have made sure to get more tokens here, which makes it easier to trigger the idol. So, but that's okay. I don't think it's gonna matter, but it is worth noting. Trade the priest for a gremlin, just keep our life total as high as possible. Alright. We have a weird token. We get to randomly just fight this gremlin. Like, again, just keep our life total nice and high. Sure. Yeah, that's fine. So our weird is going to die. We do still gain the life, so 15. We have this idol that we can activate. We have a bunch of spawn tokens. So yeah, I think we're sitting pretty. We're doing okay. No attacks. So opponent 1 energy, so they can't activate the amulet. They can't move the axe around. Gremlin can attack for 1. That's fine. We just block and then sack to make a new one. Yeah. Okay, or no blocks. That's fine too. We didn't need to take that damage, but that's probably okay. So let's see what opponent has here. Um, yep. Make a guy. Play a land. So we're deciding whether or not it's worth it to fangs and just make a bunch of 2/3s basically. So our opponent hits Ral and the implicit maze off their cascade here. And normally that would be very good. But in this case, it's just going to animate my idol. Which is very exciting. Because I know that we have this Fangs sitting in our hand. Okay, so what happened here, and I'm a little annoyed about it because Auto Tapper did this. It tapped the idol to make the mana for the rebirth, so that I didn't get a chance to make another token in response to that would die and make this thing a 10/10, which is very obnoxious, but it is what it is. Anyway, this thing is 9+1/+1 counters, so the Fangs will add a counter and then double it. We click on Overload because we're not paying attention and it doesn't matter, and then cleanly in for 20 with Annihilator 2. So opponent hit the best possible thing they could hit given what the board looked like in Ral and the Implicit Maze to sweep all million of my tokens, and then immediately died. So I wonder if they had a plan for the idol once it flipped, because like presumably they realized that it was going to flip. I don't know if they were trying to force it to so they could like dog umbre it or similar. But yeah, that an idol of false gods getting to one shot an opponent who was at 20 moments before. The only point of damage they took was off their own barbarian ring. Is something that I didn't think I was going to see or accomplish in this limited format, and it was really cool. I'm that idol was awesome, and it's the reason it's the thumbnail. All right, so next game, and we're gonna lead on the Disciple of Freyles. We need to draw lands no matter what anyway. There's our colorless source so that we can get the Glaring Fleshraker down on turn 3. So that's great. No idol on 2 is a choice. Theoretically, we're just trying to trigger the Glaring Fleshraker, but I think we should just get our cards down when we can cast them, but it's probably okay. If the Fleshraker just gets killed here, then there was no point in not playing the idol on turn 2. If it does survive, though, then the extra value that we get from just playing it winds up being worthwhile. So, looks like we're gonna get away with one here, as it were. Yeah, that's a big ol' hit. We're taking 5. The good news is nothing has trample. We have this Ral and the Implicit Maze in our hands, so the goal here is to just make sure we get to the Ral and the Implicit Maze. So let's make sure that we get our double red, play the idol, trigger the Glaring Fleshraker, deal 1, and then yeah, we're not blocking with this Flesh Raker. They have a 1/1, so we might as well attack with it. And then hopefully next turn, assuming we remember to fetch a red source, we get to Ral and the Implicit Maze down this entire board. So this is all going to come down to remembering to fetch a red source here. Okay, they're moving the axe over, diversifying the damage that they're getting in, so this means they're definitely getting in for 5. So a good play by opponent. We're going to block the 4/1 and then sacrifice. Okay. We could have sacrificed the spawn and tapped the green source in order to make another spawn. So that's a missed spawn token for me on the idol, but we are just, making sure that we get this Ral down this turn. Opponent even played an extra X1 for us. So, hooray, we get to kill everything. And this puts us pretty far ahead in terms of board. That Eladamri, though, can catch them up very quickly. Yeah, so Eladamri right off, and then they get to play a creature right off the top immediately. So their choice if they want to use the energy to equip, fair enough. So they now have a 3/3 with Menace. We're going to discard one of these landscapes in order to try and draw something interesting. While not necessarily what I would call interesting, they are at least things, I guess. So we have some work to do to try to get these idols anywhere close to winning us the game. We can activate both of them every turn, so that's a good thing. That gets us a little bit of an army. This looks like a whole bunch of equipping and attacking this turn from the opponent. If they put it all on the charge bug, since it has menace, then we just block with 2 spawn tokens and make a third one. Okay. So they kind of have to attack with 2 creatures. Or they have cards off the top of their library. Yeah. Eladamri never misses. Yeah, okay. Flesh Raker's going to get to eat the 1/1. They don't have any energy, so that part doesn't matter. And then we're double blocking the 3/3. We still take 5, which is all, or we take 8. That's terrible. So we should make our, yeah, okay. Fair enough. I guess it doesn't really matter then. Counters. Activate. Shoot. Yep. Activate again. Oh, I guess we don't have to activate until end of turn. 1/1 down. We're at 2. 2 is not very many lives, especially when there's a Dross Claw across the table. Okay, so we cracked the landscape to give us black mana so we can use this Pyretic Rebirth, though I don't think there's anything to use it on. This Titan's Vanguard makes an extra guy, which deals an extra damage. They're at functionally 10. Puts counters there and there. Okay. Oh, that has haste. I feel dead. Trampley Boy, Menace Boy, just sheer number of bodies, though I guess I have the number of bodies covered. Um, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, functionally 6 blockers. But Trampling Boy, put the Cranial Ram on it. Put the Dross Claw on it. I don't see. I don't see an out from here, though maybe I'm missing something. I assume my opponent is just attacking with everything. That's the assumption. They also get a free creature with Hunger Tide Rises. So, I have no idea what they could get. Nothing. Okay. So they didn't want to sacrifice anything, which makes sense. Alright, so there's the Dross Claw and the Cranial Ram on the Void Pouncer. So that is a very large, very trampling thing. And yeah, attack with everything and put us to 1 means we need 10 toughness in front of the Void Pouncer, which we cannot do. So yeah, there's no way to get enough in front of the Trampler, so let our opponent get their dailies in. Oh, stupid Eladamri never missing. Okay. Yeah, good beats. Man, being 2-2 with this deck is wild. This deck seems real good, but alright. We keep going. Alright, 4 lands. We have the priest. Yeah, we can do better. This hand is better. Alright, so we don't have a green source, notably. This landscape is the only not green landscape we have in the deck. So we are on turn 2, idle, hope to draw land. And yeah, we're just gonna kind of try to bide time with the idols and blocking with spawn tokens, which, yep, that's what it is. So rather than play the second idol, we're going to activate the first one, which gives us at least 3 mana next turn. If we draw a green source, then we get to Path of Annihilation. Opponent not playing the Condor first. We drew the green source, so we do get to Path of Annihilation here. Yeah. Okay, good. I scared me for a second. Like, getting the Fleshraker down is all well and good, but just playing the 4-drop when we can play the 4-drop is also relevant. So, here we go. Notably, now the idol taps for mana as well, which is a neat interaction of Path of Annihilation that I was unaware of prior. So we're trying to save all our mana here. Shilgengar is gigantic, and we're going to have to Kozilek's Command it. No lands, but thankfully this Path of Annihilation gave us +3 mana. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 mana available to us. We can play Idle, which puts us to 6, but back up to 7. We can play Idle and Kozilek's Command for 5. Yeah. Play Idle, Kozilek's Command for 5. exile the Shield Gengar and make 5 spawn tokens is my bet. All right. So yeah, we have. So they get the Condor trigger here, which I forget is a thing every time. I constantly forget that Condor has this triggered ability. I don't know why I can't get it through my head, but all right, make 5 dudes. Exile Shield Gengar. So, yep, bunch of counters on the 2 idols. So this game is kind of showing the power of Path of Annihilation, but also the idols as a threat here, right? Like we just made a pile of tokens that represent a terrifying time for our opponent because these 2 idols can both get active at will almost. Now actually at will. So yeah. So Writhing Chrysalis here. And in the same turn that we Writhing Chrysalis. Did I sacrifice the wrong one? Yeah, we did. Okay. Yeah. We definitely misclicked there. We did not mean to sacrifice one of the non-summoning sick tokens in this spot. But it is what it is. We can sacrifice the sick ones for the sake of doing everything we want to do. We can also make another token with the idol if we want to. I think right now we just want to use it for mana. Yep. Okay, so here's Ral in the Implicit Maze. Kadonk, blow up your 2 germs. Yeah. Alright, so opponent is off it, which makes an amount of sense. We played that game on 3 lands, and we're able to be casting 8 mana spells for no reason, really. So yeah, the power of the Path of Annihilation and then the idols both fueling the path while reaping the benefits of being an impending clock for our opponent. The following turn, both of those idols were going to be Annihilator 2 monsters that could attack. And in the meantime, they were generating enough mana for me to be able to do everything that I needed to do. So we're on a mulligan to 5 here. So we're 3 and 2, so back kind of against the wall, and we have to mulligan, which feels pretty awful. We're putting back our only black card in the deck, and therefore we're also going to put back the Swamp. I'm not even sure that's right. It might be better to put back the Devourer, but instead we're going to reveal the Devourer. So if we can find, like, Priest of Titania or similar. So yeah, now we have to choose between Path of Annihilation and Glaring Fleshraker here. Or the just plain the Forest. Yeah, we're taking the Path. It's the highest upside play we have. And then we have to find a green source here so that we can get our Basking Brood Scale down, and also potentially the Path of Annihilation later. So unfortunately, that means we don't have a colorless source in play. And we're hoping that our Brood Scale doesn't get booped. Alright, we're taking some damage. That's a bunch of damage. That's not a land. Not ideal. So we really, really need a land next turn. We're activating now while our opponent has 1 mana open and has shown that they didn't want to try to Galvanic Discharge earlier. So So opponent fortunately has no attacks here. So we got a little lucky, and now we get to Path of Annihilation, which unlocks the rest of our hand, basically. So the high upside of Devourer finding us the path is going to give us access to our hand that we apparently don't need. I'm guessing opponent didn't draw their second color, and the path they know is going to unlock kind of everything for us. So even though we mulligan to 5, looks like opponent stumbled, so we got to pull it out. 4 forests, idle, horrific assault, writhing chrysalis. Yeah, yeah. Okay. This hand is basically the same, except we have both of our colors, so we don't just die. if we draw off color spells, basically. So turn 2 idle, most likely. Only reason we won't is if we draw the priest. Solar Transformer, sure. Yeah, that's fine. Getting the colorless source down is actually fine anyway. It'll give us access to this Kozilek's command in the meantime if we need it. Okay. So opponent churning through the deck quickly. Malevolent Rumble, one of my favorite cards in this set. That card has kind of started to show itself to be a player in Modern as well, which is very exciting. Alright. So just take 3 here. Make a dude. Second Rumble. And this one found some action. So Warp Tusker or It That Betrays, or It That Heralds the End. I mean, they take the big fella, so they have a Warp Tusker in hand, which they can cast next turn. So here we go. Idol the False Gods activate, make a Deuter, untap, play a land, play a Writhing Chrysalis. So they can play their Warp Tusker if they want to. We're very okay with that. We have the necessary spawn to be able to challenge it with the Writhing Chrysalis. And we also have the Kozilek's command, which can both make more tokens at instant speed and also clear something, though not the Warp Tusker itself yet. That's yeah, it feels like a trick. Like they have 7 mana. Okay. Crabomination. So hopefully they don't hit my Kozilek's command. Mountain off the top. They hit my Devourer. I don't have any colored permanents. And it's not a May. So they cast my Devourer for free, and they're forced to exile their own Crabomination. I have never seen a worse Crabomination. I gotta be honest. A little unlucky for them, I suppose, but yeah, I'll take it either way. So they get to resolve this 6/6, but I truly don't care about a 6/6. I care about a recursive Crabomination, something that they can get back later. And fortunately, they had to exile it. So, no reason to do anything just yet. We can. Okay, we could have sacrificed 2 spawn to make 1 spawn and just get counters on our Chrysalis and our Idol, but chose not to do that, which is fine. There wasn't like a rush or a need to do it. Now we have 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mana available to us. So if we want to... Yeah, we're 1 short of Kozilek's commanding the Devourer down. Right, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. We're 1 short of Kozilek's command to hit the 7 drop, basically. Which means we're 1 short to hit the Warp Tusker as well. So if we activate our Idol this turn... Alright. Yep. So we learned our lesson a while back about this and making sure that we, 1 at a time, sacrifice our spawn so that we get these triggers and have the ability to respond to them, rather than casting our thing and putting all the triggers on the stack simultaneously and our opponent getting to respond to all of them all at once. We lost a Chrysalis to a Galvanic Discharge that way a long while back that never should have actually happened. So. Alright, we are choosing make 6 tokens, scry 6, draw a card. Alright, so what of these do we want? I don't think we care about the lands. I don't think we care about the Brood Scale. The path is fine, but I don't think we need it. I am interested in the Oozewag being able to give trample to everything. And the Fanged Flames is kind of medium. Yeah. So, the only card that I want to keep on top here is the Oozewag. The Idol is going to be an 8/8 very soon. And if that's the case, if the Idol's going to be an 8/8, then I would prefer it has Trample. And then Trample Annihilator 2 sure seems like a pretty good way of making sure our opponent can't, like, just chump block to stay alive. Just get rid of Spawn Token or similar. And obviously the Writhing Chrysalis can be gigantic as well. So both of those creatures. Alright, so opponent is trying to Skoa down the Chrysalis, and we're just going to sacrifice a bunch of Spawn Token and animate our Idol and grow our Chrysalis out of reach of this Skoa. Yeah. Your Skoa has resolved. So yeah, so now we have a 10/11 Writhing Chrysalis, an 8/8 Idol of False Gods. We still have the ability to sacrifice 2 more and grow both of them. But yeah, we have Annihilator 2, so probably the Repurposer and the token that's sitting there, which then resets the token. But yeah, they have no good blocks, and this is an attack for 22. So they have to chump block with the Skoa just to not be dead. And they go to 1. So yeah, keeping the Uzwag was seemingly definitely correct. The Uzwag opens up the door to just close out the game very, very quickly. More mulligans. Probably just... Yeah, that's fine. So we have our... We need a colorless source, and then we have basically Tron, right? We got to keep all of our Jundi colors, which open means every draw is live. Rouse is fine. Here's the idol. Notably, we can't activate the idol just yet, which is awkward, but that's okay. So we're looking for a landscape, really. Any land is good because it opens up Chrysalis into Chrysalis in the following turns. Colorless land, obviously, is good if we can get Glaring Fleshraker going, along with everything else. So, take 3. Can't activate the idol, so nothing to do here. Can't cast the Fleshraker, so unfortunately we don't have a play for the first couple turns. But then we get to show off the power of why Writhing Chrysalis is just such an obscene common in the set. Alright, we did functionally nothing for the first 3 turns of the game. Here's our common. Please stop attacking. Alright, opponent cracks a landscape, fetches a second blue source. We can now, if we want to, yeah. So we can sacrifice our 2 spawn in order to make 1 more spawn. We're technically, like, we're down a mana here, but the number of mana isn't the concern. It's more about making sure that we can grow both our idol and our Writhing Chrysalis here, and while our opponent is tapped out. Just making sure that we can do that. I'm not sure what exactly we needed to play around, though. I think it might have... I don't know. I might have thought it was... I might have gotten confused as to whose end step it was, if I'm being honest. There was no real reason to do that on my own end step, but Depth Defiler is going to bounce the Writhing Chrysalis here for sure. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know what exactly happened there, but I guess it's alright. So, Defiler bounces the Writhing Chrysalis. We're obviously just going to replay the Writhing Chrysalis. But yeah, if we hadn't have done that on our own end step, right? Like, then that's weird. It's so weird. Sorry. We would have gotten to block both of them and then sacrifice them and still wind up with a guy left over because the counters on the Chrysalis wouldn't have mattered. So the idol would have 1 less counter on it, but I don't think that's important. Just really weird sequence. I'm kind of having to assume that we just lost track of whose end step it was. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. So Chrysalis into Fleshraker on turn 5. So now this idol is up to 5 counters. We have a 4/5 Chrysalis. The Fleshraker is just hanging out, but we have the second Chrysalis to follow up with. So this turn we're likely taking... If they attack with everything, we're taking... well... Alright, now we're taking 9 unless we want to lose our Fleshraker. I'm not, like, scared of the Wumpus because we know that we have the idol that can be an 8/8 at instant speed. So yeah, here's another Writhing Chrysalis. Trigger the Fleshraker. Make a guy shoot you. Here's these 2 guys shoot you twice. Here's the Chrysalis itself shoot you. Okay. And now we have a 5/6 Writhing Chrysalis that can be a 6/7 if we desperately need it to be. A bunch of blockers, and an idol that can be an 8/8 to block the Wumpus Aberration if it has to. We are at 5, which is a, scary low number when there's a 6/6 with trample across from us. But again, we've got the 6/6 covered twice, and we can chump block all the 3s, so I think that means we're okay. Alright, land and then sacrifice a spawn token. Alright, opponent is just drawing a bunch of cards. Could be way worse for us. Three mana remaining for them. And anything? Nope. Going to combat. Skipping combat. So we're going to sacrifice 1 spawn and activate the idol. So basically stay at parity as far as our board, but get an extra counter on each of our things and a Fleshraker trigger. Okay. There's a Fangs of Colonia. So we could sacrifice a spawn, Fangs double everything. What happens if we do that? Sack a spawn, Fangs. So that puts the idol up to an 8. The Writhing Chrysalis up to 2 counters. Fangs kicked. Or overloaded, whatever. So counters everywhere. And yeah, now we have an 18/18 with Annihilator 2. Pretty easy to just... It doesn't have trample or anything. Definitely attacking. Like, it's a lethal threat. So, like, the Annihilator 2 is going to force them to lose 2 things, likely the Repurposers. And then they still have to chump block. So this attack is downgrading 2 Repurposers to spawn tokens and killing the spawn token that's sitting over there, which means that there's less pressure coming towards us. And yeah, this is a lethal attack, so they do have to block it. Yep. So we have a pair of 2/3s, the 8/9 Writhing Chrysalis, and a 4/4 Glaring Fleshraker. So The Wumpus can't do it. Okay. 5 cards in hand, nothing to deal with the idol theoretically, so the idol is just going to get to keep doing its job. It has to be chump blocked every turn, and the Annihilator 2 trigger is going to happen every turn, so opponent is going to lose 3 permanents a turn guaranteed. Alright, and on to the trophy game. So, what looked like a good deck and started out 0-1 and 2-2 is playing for the trophy. So I feel better. This deck is in fact good. And after the string of drafts that we have just survived, it's nice to get a W on the board, whether or not we get this trophy. This is Priest versus Fleshraker. I kept the Fleshraker on top. We have the Brood Scale to curve into the Fleshraker, though we could have gone Priest just to try to get the Chrysalis down early. The problem is that we don't already have a red source. So we couldn't crack a landscape to get a red source on 1 because the Priest would get shuffled away. And on turn 2, we would be trying to play the Priest, so we can't crack the landscape, which means unless we naturally draw the red source, we couldn't Chrysalis on 3 anyway. So keeping the Fleshraker on top just gives us the ability to curve 2 into 3, into 4 if we find the red source, but it gives us much more time to find the red source. In this case, you know, we obviously just chose to adapt the Brood Scale and take this turn to find our red source, which also makes sense. It, air quotes, uses all of our mana anyway, since finding the red source will be a tapped red source. Take 1 from the Menace creature. And we didn't find the red source, and I don't know if that was a misclick or... Yeah, I'm not happy about this. Like, present me is not happy about this. This is a mistake, and I hate making mistakes. Alright, we get another attempt at finding a red source, I guess. And we get the Fleshraker down before the Chrysalis. So, like, it's not even the worst. But, man, is it frustrating. It was just sitting there. We could have still played the Fleshraker this turn before the Chrysalis if we wanted to. We had the extra landscape, even. Oh, well. Amped Raptor. What are you going to hit, Amped Raptor? 4 or less. That was Lethal Throwdown? Sure. Sacrifice what to kill what? What should die here? Yeah, probably the Fleshraker. So what are we trading for the Fleshraker? The charged... The bug? The bug is down, traded with a Fleshraker. We know we have a Writhing Chrysalis coming, so it turns out that getting rid of that Fleshraker mattered quite a bit. It was worth 1, 2, 4 damage this turn. So, Spymaster's Vault being activated on the Molten Gatekeeper. I would have thought to do it on the Amped Raptor, since the Raptor has First Strike. But, yeah. Like, this is fine. We can take the hit for 3. There's our red source. Okay. We can idle into Chrysalis. Attack for 3 first. But yeah, we can idle into Chrysalis here, or we can Chrysalis into idle. Guess it depends where we want the extra counter. Either way, we can cast both, so it's not a particularly big deal, whichever order we want to do it in. I think we should get the idol down. Yeah. Get the idol down. We can even activate the idol this turn and get 2 more counters everywhere. So this would put the Chrysalis to a 5/6 that get the first 2 counters on the idol and still have 1 spawn token left over. And then we have the Devourer of Destiny in hand. So if they do like keep Spymaster vaulting onto the same creature, we can exile it. We can just exile that Marionette Apprentice before it matters. Yeah. Making the servo. There's a Dross Claw. Dross Claw makes sense. So yeah. Gatekeeper having done 3 damage this turn, serving a very similar role to what I wanted my Fleshraker to do. They have no attacks because the Chrysalis can grow. I mean, I guess they can attack, but... Sure. We can... Which one do we want to eat? So we can eat the Gatekeeper, but then it can come back. We can also eat the Raptor and then exile the Gatekeeper if we want to. I think we just want to exile the Marionette Apprentice, but... So... we're doing this without sacrificing first because our opponent only has the 1 colorless mana up, so there's no like burn or anything that they could have to get rid of this Chrysalis in response. So, all right, eat a Gatekeeper. The Raptor is blocked. Take 1 from the Marionette Apprentice. Then untap, Devour, exile Marionette Apprentice. And decide if we attack, I guess. Oh, never mind. Yeah, we just rouse. What am I talking about? Why would we devour? This literally just kills everything. 5, 8, 9. Alright, so this is a hair short of lethal. I don't know why I was talking about the devour. I was just completely spacing out that the Rowl and the Implicit Maze was in my hand. So, yeah, Rowl obviously block the Gatekeeper because everything that's in play dies to the Rowl. Set up the turn, sweep their board, put them to 3. I don't care about that Molten Gatekeeper. They can play it, they can equip it, they can do whatever they want. So, unearth. 2/3 with haste. Dross Claw, you got it. I will take 1. Uh-huh. Black, black. Second Dross Claw. Alright, trigger Gatekeeper, I'll take 1 from that. Go to combat, I'll take 1 from the Dross Claw. Block with my token. Sacrifice it to make a new token. Put counters on Chrysalis and Idol. And that's it. Alright. Yeah, so opponent not conceding and like we're just gotta like not click our way out of winning this game somehow. Which seems impossible, but whatever. Alright, counters, exile, stuff, thing. Here's a 6/6 attack. There we go. Okay, and we did it. We trophied. We did the thing. Our deck was good. We got 7 wins with it. I am a happy boy. We have finally had a successful draft after a prolonged string of unsuccessful drafts. So can't wait to get through platinum and get into diamond. Can't wait for the next several drafts. Obviously, we're not going to trophy all of them, but we do go on a nice little heater, rejuvenated by the arena cube and remembering how to have a little bit of fun and draft some cool stuff. So, hope you all enjoyed this one. Glad we could turn the corner and get back on the right track. This deck, the idol was awesome in this deck. I've never drafted a deck before where the idol played such a pivotal role as it did in this one, and I was super excited to see it get to do what it was clearly designed to be able to do. I'm sure that other people have had success with it, doing exactly what I was doing here or a similar thing, but the Fangs of Colonia being able to get it, there were 2 games, one where it became a 2020 and one where it became an 1818, where our opponent is just, they have to lose 3 permanents a turn or lose the game every turn, and it doesn't take very many turns of that. The first opponent just died on the spot from 20. The second opponent survived the first hit, but then just conceded the turn after because they just couldn't lose 3 permanents every turn. So yeah, no, this was a cool one. We had the Drown Yard Lurker in our deck, and I don't think we cast it a single time, which is completely fine. Uh, yeah, way to go, Idol of the False Gods. You did it. You got to do a thing. You made me actually respect you as a Magic card. Congratulations. I didn't think you could do it. But anyway, thanks guys. Hope everybody enjoyed watching. We'll see you in draft number 17. Bye.